Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and welcome back to the Guiding Stars podcast, where we discuss the beauty, the challenges, and everything in between that comes with motherhood and our maternal mental health. Our guest for today is Alanood, who is the founder of another podcast, Modern Mom GCC. She's also a fellow Young Arab Leader member. Thank you, Alanood, for being with us today and making the time to be on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Farah. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to speak with you and the community.
Can you tell our listeners more about who Alanood is? What does she do and all of that?
Sure. My name is Alanood Al-Fil. I founded the Modern Mom GCC podcast. I'm also, as you mentioned, a member of Young Arab Leaders, and I am in the midst of launching a book called PI, Performance Invoking Equation. It's due in a few months. I'm also the head of marketing at KHDA, and I am very proud to be Mo's mom.
MashaAllah. Yeah. Can you tell us more about your journey with motherhood and how old is Mo, if you don't mind me asking?
He is 2 years and 3 months and a couple of weeks.
MashaAllah.
So we're almost hitting 2.5. Yeah.
All right.
I mean. I don't know. Motherhood was weird, I have to say. I still don't feel like I'm in it. Mm-hmm. It took me a while to accept Muhammad, and I think because I married late and I was one of my few friends who had children, I wasn't exposed to kids.
Yeah.
And so I had a bit of a struggle with trying to accept this new normal for me, which is a +1. And it's a huge responsibility. And it's like this, your organ that's kind of coming outside of you that you have to carry with you all the time and make sure that, it's happy and healthy and alive. And so I have to say it was a bit of a struggle at first. And I think what helped was I actually didn't do anything to prepare. When I found out I was pregnant, I was more kind of, because I know the kind of person I am, I'll buy every single book, probably not read any of it, and start obsessing with like medical journals and theories and this and that. And I said, you know what? Allah guide me. If there's knowledge that I need to know, I will find it. Someone will share it with me. I won't overthink and overstress. So subhanAllah, I think that made a world of a difference because I got to enjoy the moment rather than plan way too far ahead. And honestly, the things that I needed to know they came organically, they came naturally. And I think that helped a lot because when the little guy came, that was a completely other world that, no book or human or anyone can get you ready for. So I think that sort of lack of preparation actually prepared me to become a mother. But the one thing I remember that I did look into when I was pregnant was schools. I wanted to make sure that schools. Funny enough, I started researching schools from the week I knew I could see.
Wow.
Yeah, because my kid's going to Harvard. That's it. Yeah. And I think I just started looking at, okay, how is education will be like, how's life will be like, how's future will be like, and when I had him, it stopped becoming what I want him to be. It became who I want him to be. I realized that, he can go to Harvard. He can be a Rhodes Scholar. He can be president of something. But is he kind? Is he compassionate? Yeah. Is he honest? Is he funny? Is he, athletic? Is he communicative? Those became goals other than that became kind of the reality I wanted for him rather than, okay, this is the school you're going to go to and these are the grades you're going to get and this is, what you'll do for a living. It was no, this is how and who I would love for you to be. And if you're not that, it's fine. You will find out who you are. And I'm here to help nurture that, to help support that. And I think that's what changed in me before having him and after having him. It stopped
That's
becoming
a
the
huge
what.
shift.
It's a huge shift because you realize when you have him or when you become a mother, you realize that, wait a minute, I want my kid to love me, not because I'm, a manager. I want my kid to love me because I'm kind, because I'm gentle, because I'm funny, or I want my kid to remember me tomorrow because I was hardworking, or, I was just not,
True.
well, my mom did ABC, but my mom was ABC.
Yeah.
So I think that was a huge shift in even the way I used to think. I was so systematic in my approach. I was very structure driven and very systematic. But then when I had him, I realized it was more of, can I say, the intangible that was more important than the tangible, I guess.
And I think that's one of the realizations that we go through as mothers. And as you said, no matter how much you try to prepare or do and all of that, what we think is and what reality is, there could be a disconnect. And reaching that realization that being compassionate, being understanding, being kind are the traits that will stay with us no matter what we end up doing. It becomes part of who we are. And has that made you, or did that ripple across into other things, whether how you do your job or how you go about life in general?
Big time. Because after having him, actually before having him, there was this part of me that came to the realization that I wanted to leave a legacy. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be remembered, not today, but tomorrow, a decade from now. I want, when my name resonates with someone, it brings a positive emotion, not a negative. And I realized that the way that we carry on as human beings is leaving certain traits or characteristics or qualities of ourselves onto others, passing it on to others. So tomorrow when, you might not be here, your child or your grandchild will remember your proactiveness and your community spirit and your love for everybody and says, I want to be that. I want to make sure that my grandmother's name doesn't be forgotten. I don't want it to go in vain. I'm proud of who she is, and I want that part of who she is to live in me in the future. And I think I realized that not only do I want it for my child, but I guess for my life around. One of the things that I hope to do when, towards the final leg of my career is to become a professor, because I believe in knowledge sharing. We were so blessed to have all these experiences that we've had to help create things that, cannot be recreated. Mm-hmm. How can we not share that knowledge and those experiences with others? How can we not pass it down? It would be a disservice from us if we kept that all to ourselves. And I think motherhood has helped change that mindset for me, that it's not about that one moment at that, that one particular moment, but it's how do you make that moment sustainable? How does it keep doing this, creating this ripple effect where, you tick off this box, but that box continues to tick off, 20 other boxes. And it's that sort of sustainability, or that mindset of never let anything just be one-sided. Make sure it's multi-sided. Make sure it's multifaceted. Make sure that it can, continue to work after you've switched on the button. Yeah. And I think that came with Muhammad, that mindset, or if it was there, it was kind of dormant, but it came to life with Muhammad. And I mean, I can see it with, in these 2 years that he's been alive, I've connected with so many more people that I've ever done in my life. And granted, I was a social person back in the day, but he has made me so extroverted. It's beyond crazy. created a podcast to help mothers, wrote a book that I've been meaning to write for like 10 years. You realize that time is so precious, and you want to make sure that you leave something behind. I mean, yes, so that's the tangible, but then the intangible, I realized those small things that our parents taught us very early on are coming back. The idea of giving, making sure you put a dirham in the charity box. The idea of saying alhamdulillah every time you wake up, or looking at the sun and smiling, or planting a tree and just being kind to it, or singing to it so it can grow. It's also those sort of, I guess, what is that word? Sorry. It's those sort of,
it's those little things that, they don't just feed us, but they also make us truly appreciate every single thing that we have, and wanting to share that gratitude, share that realization with those around us.
Exactly. And, motherhood also breaks your ego. Everyone in this world has an ego. There's a point somewhere in someone's life where they will, show that the more defensive side. That's absolutely fine. We are created to be that. But the beauty of motherhood, if you allow it, is you get to unlearn and relearn so many things. We were taught certain way for so long, but then these things, I'm sorry, I call them things because sometimes I'm not sure what they are. But they come along and they make you doubt so many things that you were sure of. And you have to allow yourself to say, I might be wrong. I should look at it from a different way. So what also help, what I've noticed as well with motherhood is you must unlearn and relearn so many things. And that actually then becomes adapted into your life. So there are many things in your life that you will actually start reflecting on and saying, wait a second, was that my ego saying this is the best thing, or is there really a better way? Let me allow myself to learn. Let me allow myself to unlearn what I have learned and relearned. And I think that also kind of keeps you going in different ways, I have to say.
And you're absolutely right. And I've noticed it with myself as well. But I wanted to ask you, how did you allow yourself to check in with your ego? Because sometimes our ego can take the the front seat.
I tell you now, I do not win every battle, but I do hope to win the war. Sometimes it takes you falling on your knees and just breaking when you realize sometimes it just takes something as little as a smile. Sometimes it just takes a deep breath and just saying, let me see how this plays out. Don't interfere at this moment. And they surprised you and you go, wow, I've been doing it wrong for so long, or wow, I've, misjudged him, or wow, how cool is this, and this, I think if we're able to get past, or at least we're conscious of, I think there's a lot of areas in life that we can use this sort of mindset in and help us kind of better different areas of our lives, whether it's relationships with others, whether it's relationships with ourselves, workplace and kind of your professional career, as well as motherhood.
And it's a beautiful realization. And sometimes it's it's not easy to act on it all the time. But I think a good starting point is that realization, is realizing that although they're as young as 2 years, or if not younger or older, but there's a lot that we can learn from them. They can teach us so much about life, about ourselves, and how we deal with those around us. And which sparks my curiosity. Did the concept of your podcast come as a result of those realizations? Or how did it how did Modern Mom GCC come about?
It was quite a mix of a few things. It did come from that for sure, but it also came. I'll backtrack a little bit. So I told you earlier that I wasn't seeking information or knowledge. I was hoping and praying to God that it will come to me. And, that was working very well to a certain point. And then I had Mo, and I just didn't know what to do. And like I mentioned before, my circle of friends, are not moms. The last child I held in my arms was my youngest brother, who's 22. And I didn't have people around me who, recently had a baby, knew how to do things. And I didn't know. I'm sorry to say this. I apologize. You can censor me, but I even had to have a poop chart the first week to make sure that whatever was coming out of him was right, because all of a sudden it's completely black. I'm like, what is this petrochemical coming out of my child? I'm like, I know he's Saudi, but why oil? And then all of a sudden it's orange, and all of a sudden it's green. And I really had to make sure that, and I'm like, this can't be the rest of my life. I was really freaking out. And then, my husband's side of the family, they were on about a dozen kids by the time Mo came. So, they had a way of doing things. Mo was the first in my family, so we had no way of doing things. And it was just very frustrating because I didn't find that person that could relate to me, could understand me, could fight for me, could teach me. It was quite difficult. And then, by some divine intervention, I was added to this group called Our Village. Mm-hmm. And it was the best thing that happened to me in motherhood. I think it took me out of my baby blues because it made me realize I had baby blues. It allowed me to talk to moms who had very similar mindset as me, who had very similar viewpoints, not just about the child, but in life in general. And they had a wealth of information. Yeah. You know that saying, "Is'al mujarrab wala tas'al tabib." That's who they were. I mean, they are moms who've been there, who've done that. There were moms who literally had kids the same day that I had mine. There were moms who had kids years before. There were moms who had kids after. And it was this community of no judgment, unconditional love, completely sleep deprived because, WhatsApp goes off at all different hours. Someone is always awake. But it was information that I couldn't find in books. Yeah. I couldn't find on Google. I wouldn't know who to turn to for this information. And I think this is what sparked Modern Mom, because I realized I'm not the only person in Dubai or in the UAE who feels this way. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a transit city. A lot of people come here, without their families or without even the idea of getting married. And, they do, and they settle down, they have kids, and their family and friend network is a million miles away. Or girls who, have a different sort of way of thinking than, let's say their husband or their in-laws or their parents, but they live with them. So they constantly hear what they're saying, but they also want information that works for them. Because at the end of the day, what we realized with motherhood is no one's going to tell you how it works. You have to find what works for you and for your child. That's it's literally one huge experiment. And granted, there are some things that works for a lot of people. Great. But then there are other things that work for others. And you won't find that, Googling or buying up everything at Borders. And that is where the idea of Modern Mom came, is to create a platform where moms share their insights, moms and professionals, because every episode has a subject matter expert and it has a mom. So we look at both sides. We look at the scientific and we look at the day-to-day life, the reality of it. Yeah. Because it's not about saying this is how you should do things. It's never about that. It's about giving you as many resources as possible for you to make the right choice for you and the decision for you. And regardless, whatever you choose, just know that you are not wrong to choose it. You want to take the shortcuts, take the shortcuts. You want to, reinvent the wheel, go for it. You have people who will support you and who will help guide you. And the hope for Modern Mom as well is to turn a profit. So, I think from early on, we said, we want sponsors. We want to make money. We want product reviews because we want those products to go to moms in need. We want that money to go to moms who, are having it a bit rough, or who need just a little bit to ensure that their kids are safe with them and not, in a different country. And it's to help support moms, because what we realize through this process is moms are unconditional to not just their children or their family, but to everybody. I think that's something, I'm sure you felt it as well. The moment you had your kids, it's a completely different world, and you want to make sure it's a good enough world that your kids would thrive in.
Yeah.
And I think
that's so true.
It really is. And I think all moms have that it comes after they have that child, that I need to make sure this place is okay. And to do that, yes, I start with myself, but I can also help others.
Yeah.
If, and then it becomes this like domino effect of giving. And that was where the intention came for Modern Mom. And I have to say, after the script writing, and we, the whole process, we're not where we want to be, but we have around 300 to 400 episode downloads per episode. We reached about 1,000 subscribers, a bit more. We're really slow, I have to say. I do apologize in advance. It was meant to be at least we'd drop an episode every 2 weeks. That has not happened. I'm very, very sorry for that.
I think that having that intention and continuing on that journey is in itself a huge thing, because as much as we want to help others, as much as we want to do things, our own day-to-day life can derail us from that. But it's not a real derail. It's where we should be.
True.
And I think, if anything, the pandemic, COVID-19, made us realize that as well, that we could be planning for 1, 2, and 3, but life has its other plans for us.
True.
Which brings me to my next question. How has your experience been going through this pandemic and having your little one at home and being a working mom, an entrepreneur? How has juggling all of that been for you?
It made me, honestly, COVID and the lockdown made me 10 times more efficient.
Really?
But yes, but it also made me 10 kilos more, and it made me probably stress 10 times more. But I have to say, I was the lucky few whose kid was not in daycare or not in school, so I didn't have to transition. And I think that took a huge toll on parents, and bless them for that, honestly.
I agree.
So his day-to-day, let's say, did not change significantly, except obviously he wasn't going out, and he wasn't doing his mommy and me classes or his play dates. But being at home with him actually allowed me to bond with him a little bit more. I was present. I could walk into a room and see him rather than drive for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Our schedules, I was able to sleep train him during the pandemic, which was the biggest blessing. That was wonderful. But and we were able to officially launch Modern Mom during the pandemic, because we seemed to have a bit more time. Everything was ready to launch, but during that time we were able to do the recordings, and we were able to get guests and try to push it as well, because it was a time where people were at home doing their work, but they were also trying to find resources. They were trying to find information. They could no longer, check out something outside, but, had to look inwards. And it was actually a good time for us, because it gave moms a friend. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of moms just need that cheerleader to say, you've got this, and they can't always do it by themselves. Like, you can pat yourself on the back so many times. Eventually, you're exhausted. You need someone sometimes. And I think we were a good outlet for that.
I really think so, especially for those who've become new moms during the pandemic. Having a resource like Modern Mom podcast ready on their hands where they can hear about other moms' journeys and their experiences, hear from experts. I think that truly facilitated a very beautiful support for those looking for it, for those who felt they are alone in lockdown.
I really do hope it served as that. And, that I think that's been one of our intentions from the get-go. And I really do hope that people have felt that. And, there are reasons, and the podcast as well. And I think this is something that we hope to reflect in the next few episodes, but we wanted to show the different sides of motherhood that motherhood brings. So, there are times when you have your child, you forget that you're you.
Yeah.
And it's easy to let go of who you were, who you are, what you want to be, and just focus on this thing, lovely creature. But, and we try to remind moms as well that before they were moms, or even being moms, they are a woman. They are an individual. They are also someone's daughter, someone's wife, someone's friend, someone's work colleague.
True.
And we try to incorporate those things. So, and I think what happened in COVID is we could have lost ourselves, but I think hopefully we came out of it understanding ourselves better, allowing ourselves to reflect a bit more, and hopefully creating a better future. Am I glad the pandemic is over, or do I hope the pandemic's over? Yes, because I don't like the everything from home.
Yeah.
But I think if you allowed it, it would have given you an opportunity to create new things and be more efficient, actually.
I think one of the things that the pandemic did surface is the importance of mental health and the importance of mentioning and talking about mental health, something that was such a taboo or stigmatized, especially in our region.
Definitely.
See more and more people talking about it. And I think that's very refreshing.
Yes, and I am so glad that you are part of that conversation, because you, Farah, mashallah, are بدون أي مبالغة such a beautiful soul, and someone that you can relate to, and I'm inspired by you always. I mean, you were on Modern Mom, you're on episode 2, and that is a memorable episode for so many people, because you were so honest and you were so raw and you're so genuine, and it was so beautiful, because everyone has a story, but there, in all our stories, there are some universal feelings. There are certain things that happiness comes in a certain way, sadness comes in a certain way. And those sort of emotions that when you accept it and you try to understand where they were resonating from and this and that, I have to hand it to you. You've inspired so many, and you're absolutely right. Mental health unfortunately has been taboo, because it's seen as maybe a weakness, or it's seen as not important enough, or, we have this sort of culture of just putting things, shoving things under the rug and, hoping they never kind of pop out. Eventually they will.
They always do.
They always do. And, I'm glad that these conversations are having, because, even in our faith, it tells us mental health is a very, very important thing. It even tells us sometimes how to help ourselves with it, how to, the idea of running, the idea of exercising, the idea of cardio, the idea of giving, the idea of smiling, those themselves are mentioned, and we just fail to kind of say, oh wait, it's been there for like the last 1,400 years. Why are we ignoring it? But I'm glad, it's better late than never. And I think this is also something that comes with motherhood, is once you have that child, you realize, okay, the world needs to be good enough for them. I want to make sure they're happy. I want to make sure they're not scared. I want to make sure they're in a place where they can thrive and they can find themselves and, create happy memories. And I think, so I think this is also another step of doing that, starting that conversation, creating a better world, hopefully. Totally
Inshallah.
agree with you. It's so important. And alhamdulillah, I'm glad these conversations are happening
And I'm
now and
glad
people are more
there's
aware of it.
exactly, and people are more open to talk about it. Like
Yes,
yourself and all our other guests that aren't ashamed or afraid or shying away
yeah,
from talking about their own journey, because
true.
everyone's journey is as unique as it is to them. As you said, inspires others, helps at the very least make us realize that we're not alone.
Yes. And platforms like this are giving people an outlet because you can have I mean there are some wonderful people in this world and they're great. But just cry in front of them or show any
Yeah.
sort of weakness, they are going to get so pissed at you.
Yeah.
you know and they might not understand it, and it's not their fault, and some of these people can be the closest to you. They
Yeah.
can be your siblings, they can be your parents, and forgive them. It's okay. This is who they are, but it's
Yeah.
beautiful as well that if you need an outlet, they exist. They're there.
Yes.
There are hotlines, there are platforms, there's guiding stars, there's Farah, there's a
Modern Mom.
community. Yes, there's Modern Mom, but we're taking a hiatus at the moment. But yeah, there are people there who want to listen, who want to hear, and maybe maybe it's hard to understand, or maybe you don't need advice. Maybe sometimes you just need to talk.
Yes.
And I think my friend always says this, and she says, I might not agree with you, but I will always run with you. Or
That's
that,
beautiful.
so that exactly. So that idea of this, I might not get it, I might not completely agree with it, but you need a friend and I'm there. You need to go through this, I'm there. And I think that's the message that we're collectively saying to everybody, that we will walk with you. We are there. We'll be there for you.
You were telling us about the book that you're working on called Pi. Can you tell us more about it?
Sure. Pi is definitely a passion project. It's something that I've wanted to do for quite some time. And this year, and I have to say, Motherhood helped me create it, make it happen. Pi stands for Performance Invoking Equation, and it is the corporate playbook, the formula that you need to not only get through corporate life, but to succeed in corporate life. And the story, the purpose of the book is it's almost like a friend talking to you, bouncing ideas off of each other, and it just guides you and helps you, create a certain perspective on how you can go about things so you don't get burned out, because world is so fast paced, it is so frenetic. We're meant to be agile, we're meant to be switched on, we're meant to be creative, we're meant to think out of the box. Exactly, everything all in like literally 1 second. And this year showed us that we do need to be that. It's no longer like, oh, those sort of A plus employees, but it's actually everyone needs to have that kind of mindset, because we don't know how things can change and which direction they can take. And this book helps guide you through that while providing you a formula. Mm-hmm. It also allows you to create your own sort of vision as to how you want to go about things. And I hope it's a useful guide for people who are not just starting out in the corporate world, but people who have already established themselves in the corporate world. It was mainly written for people in the corporate world, but I think anyone, from entrepreneurs, from moms, from caregivers, I think anyone can benefit from it, because it kind of gives you a structure around life in general, not just work. It's been delayed a little bit, but I'm hoping its release date should be in March.
Inshallah. And it sounds very exciting. And as you said, it is definitely something that we all need, especially after the year that we had.
Yes.
And I'm very excited to see how you're bringing all of that elements together, because one thing that I'm personally struggling with is being able to manage everything at the same time. And as you said, we're expected to be 100% focus at work and still be agile and adjust and move around. And then the same when you're at home. And then if you're an entrepreneur, and it's just all of these different elements. And it sounds very, very exciting.
I'm glad. I'm sure you will find a few answers around that, around the topic that you mentioned right now in the book. And I really do hope it helps people as much as possible. And I'll definitely send you a copy, and I'd love to hear your feedback about it. Yeah.
I'd be honored.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, you're a working mom, you're an entrepreneur, and you've recently became a member of the Young Arab Leader Network. Can you tell me more about how your experience been so far? Whether you've been able to connect with mothers or our other fellow members in the network.
Yes, and I think that's what attracted me to Young Arab Leaders and the members of Young Arab Leaders, is that it is not just a network to, let's say, better yourself, but it is also bettering others through mentorship, through guidance, through sharing your skill sets and your expertise, and ensuring that the next generation, is ready for the future. And that aligns with motherhood, does it not? Do you not want the best for your child? That's and you want to ensure that, they're ready and they're prepared, and they have the set of skills that will ensure them a better tomorrow. And it was for me, and I know I mentioned this earlier, but for me, it was about leaving that legacy. It was ensuring that Alanood's mark is there, if not on paper, on someone's, character, on someone's decision, on someone's train of thought. And being part of Young Arab Leaders has helped me do that, has helped me share my insight. And, whether you want to or you don't is completely up to you, but it's allowed myself, yourself, other members to be able to share what we believe in and nurture others. And hopefully they progress to become successful.
I couldn't agree more. And it's really such a beautiful network to be part of, where you're constantly inspired by those around you, and you're always, there's always this opportunity to inspire others or volunteer to help others. And I think that sort of ecosystem is very much needed, both at an individual level and as a mother.
True.
I also wanted to know that, mashallah, how are you able to manage volunteering with Young Arab Leaders while being a working mom, by being a full-time mom, juggling all of that, and being that source of inspiration to many?
I think it comes with the role of being a mom. I if you remember, we had a conversation earlier where I told you that the most successful a mother can become the most successful CEO. Mm-hmm. And the reasons why I say that is we have to put our child on a schedule. We sleep, say, 4 hours a day. Every minute counts. And is that not what CEOs always say is what they need to become successful? They, schedule their time in like 5-minute blocks. They wake up early and they sleep early. And, that's why we sleep train our children, so we can have a decent night's sleep too. Or, they're mindful of people's time and their time as well. And, and also those qualities that having a baby is like managing company. You have to remember that you are, you're showing this child what it means to be good, so you must be good. You're showing this child what it means to be kind, so you must be kind. It's a reflection of yourself as well. Before him, it was Netflix and chill, but after him is, I have 1 minute. What can I do in that 1 minute?
So true.
And like I told you, my book, inshallah, should be launching come March. And it was only this year I was able to finish it, but I started 10 years ago. Why did it take 10 years?
Wow.
But, I think after having him, I realized that time is of the essence. So get on with it. And this is, I think, as well, motherhood, you realize that your time is not yours anymore. So you really have to maximize the time that you do have for yourself, whether it's, so when you know that you can only have 1 hour a day to work out, you are going to work out. You're not going to be lazy about it. You're going to maximize it. It's the same thing with work or with, I know.
That's so true.
I'm going to say, yeah. And I think that's what, and I think these sort of, I guess, all of this kind of culminated in becoming a member of Young Arab Leaders, realizing that, trying to maximize our efficiency, launching the book, launching a podcast, and hopefully being a decent mom to this one, the little one.
I'm sure you're doing a wonderful job, Alanood.
People ask me sometimes, like, I still don't feel like I'm a mom, and this is something that I don't know if you resonate with or not, but I don't feel like I'm a mom, and I don't have maternal instincts, but I'm so in love with this child.
Exactly.
That I can't not think about him or want the best for him or worry for him or try a bit harder for him or sacrifice a bit for him or be patient with him. And I guess that's motherhood. I'm not sure, but I get
that's
I don't
our
feel like
version
a
of
mom.
motherhood.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Okay.
Alanood, this was lovely. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, for your honesty.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And I want you to know that with me, you are leaving a legacy. You are someone that I will carry with me throughout my life. And I want to thank you for that. For our listeners.
Thank you. And likewise. You know that. Everyone should know that too. Yes.
If our listeners want to get to know more about you or your book, your podcast, how can they get in touch with you?
For my book or any sort of, if you want just to have a conversation, my email is Alanood at theplaybook.com. And our Modern Mom Instagram page is Modern Mom GCC. And yeah, you can get in touch with me anytime. We're always around. We're always awake.
That's true. Thank you. Thank you very, very much for your time, for having shared with us your insights, your knowledge, and your beautiful journey of motherhood.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to all our listeners who tuned in to today's episode. And please do reach out to Alanood, read up about her book, listen to her podcast, and let's work together to spread the awareness and the support for maternal mental health. And tune in for the next episode. Thank you.